It's not what you achieve, it's what you overcome. That's what defines your career. 𝗂𝗍𝗶𝗲, you're watching Curious About Careers, and I'm your host, 𝗂𝗍𝗶𝗲. Today I have Leiden here with me, who teaches ballet. And please tell us more about yourself.
My name is Leiden. I majored in dance, and now I'm teaching ballet here in Bhutan. I got my degree in dance and philosophy in the US. I specifically studied in the College of Worcester in Ohio. I did dance there, and then I really liked it. I went to New York, did a little bit more dance there, and then I came back here, and then I opened up a studio.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. So how did it happen for you? Why did you choose to start a profession in dancing?
Ever since I was a kid, I've always enjoyed dancing. I would always dance at parties. I was always that kid, you know, when you have like birthday parties, like the parents would be saying, go, go, go dance. So that was always me, and then dancing, and I've always liked it. And when I went to college in my first year, I didn't have a major, and I went to a liberal arts college, so we were allowed to choose our major like a little later. So by the first year, I took my first dance class there, like a proper like college dance class there, and I really fell in love with dance. I went and I watched, I think it was like the fall dance concert, and I really enjoyed it, and it made me feel something inside. So I just knew then and there, like, I'm going to major in dance. And then I think it was, I went to college in 2013. So from then on, I knew I was going to open up a ballet studio.
So is it only ballet that you learned, or do you know other forms of dances?
So when I was in college, my college mainly did modern dance. So it's post ballet, so it's very abstract. It's like sometimes you dance to no music, you dance to music, whereas ballet is very strict, and it has, like, there is a right and there is a wrong. So I did that in college, and then after college I thought about it, and modern dance wouldn't really be that well received in Bhutan because it's such a new concept of dance, right? So what I did was I went to New York, and then in New York I really focused on ballet just to make it, because I knew I wanted to open up a studio, a dance studio here, and I felt like ballet was a little bit more digestible to the community, so I switched to ballet there.
Okay, so while you were studying, you felt that you could start a dance studio in Thimphu, in Bhutan. So how has the market reacted to your business idea?
I think it's been good. I feel like my target audience in general are usually children, because I've always wanted to dance, and then I wanted to create that platform for children. So I have focused on dance, but specifically with children. And so I feel like it's always nice to try something new, and the kids have enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. From what we observe in movies, it seems like it's a very strict form of art. So can you tell me, can everyone learn ballet, and what does it take to learn ballet?
Everyone can learn ballet, but very few do make it professionally. Ballet is very strict. It's very disciplined, and in general with ballet you do, to a certain degree, need a certain body type, and a lot of things are predispositioned. So your rotators in your hips, you know, there's not much you can change. It's sort of like what you're born with. So like turnout, you'll notice like ballet dancers stand with like 180-degree turnout. You can fake it, but eventually it does lead to knee injuries and a lot of other issues. So to a certain degree, it's something that you are born with, but I think now, these days, with like the ballet community, it's gotten a lot less strict, and they are willing to take dancers that don't have that 180-degree turnout, but have like that artistic sense instead. So I would say you don't necessarily have to have like all of it. You just need to have some and make it your own.
It seems like a very difficult art form to learn, but then you are someone who studied ballet for a long period of time. But if you say everyone can learn, I'm sure those who have passion will be able to do it. So can you tell us about the benefits of ballet and why everyone should at least give it a try?
So in general, with younger children, it instills a lot of different like traits and characteristics. It really helps with discipline. So you'll see when children come into class, they're asked to dress a certain way. It's very specific to ballet, so that children are able to differentiate that this is ballet time and not running around in the playground sort of thing. And it's also very consistent with having it done like twice a week, every day. Attendance does matter. In terms of the body, it really helps with coordination. It really helps with alignment of the body, correct posture, the way you carry yourself, and it also helps with spatial awareness, and then also like awareness of your body in space, which I think even some adults, I would say, you don't have it unless you're really being mindful of the way you're moving. So in those ways, I think ballet really helps develop all of like these traits and coordination, which is so important even with sports, because eventually everything is coordination. And then with adults, it does the same thing as well. But then also you'll see a lot of adult dancers. It's more of like a hobby, because in ballet you're always reaching for something that's almost unattainable, so you always have something to work on. So in a way it's very meditative, and so you'll see a lot of you'll even see women that are like in their 80s and 70s, they're taking class and they really enjoy it.
Wow, that's amazing. Not only does it look graceful, I think it has a lot of benefits. And talking about your ballet classes, were there any challenges that you faced when you initially wanted to start a ballet class in Bhutan?
I don't know if it's because I'm in my own world or, but I feel like people were very open to it. There weren't too many challenges. I think the only challenge was having children be brought in like specific clothing, because it's very, like I said, disciplined, and it's not something I would say the community is used to. But honestly, I feel like the parents were very open to it and very accepting, and very willing to try all these new things. And the children they just enjoyed it. They were like, ooh, something new. And so in terms of difficulty, there really wasn't too much. The parents and children were both very open to it.
So it's great that you received a lot of cooperation from the parents and the children. And do you think that any person in any stage of their life, can they start learning ballet?
Yes, I do think anyone can start ballet, but there is a slight difference between someone who starts later and then earlier. So for example, I would say I started ballet very late. I started when I was 16, 17. So personally, I would not call myself a professional dancer. Usually you'd call a professional dancer someone who is with a dance company and they're doing shows around the year. Usually dance companies will take dancers that have started from a very young age, and usually children do start by 5 or 6. To be honest, even 9 and 10 is considered late, because usually companies start accepting dancers by the time they're 16 and 17 is when you usually get your contract and all of that. So there is a difference, but anyone can dance. It's like painting. You can always paint as a hobby, and
Well, that's great to know that at least we can, at this age, we can take it up as a hobby, because it has a lot of benefits. And Leiden, you lived in the US for quite a while.
7 years.
7 years, that's a long time. So I'm sure that you must have seen ballets. How was the experience like?
I'll be honest, my first experience, I fell asleep because it's very long. Sometimes it's like 3 hours, and then you have like intermission in the middle, and you're sitting. But there are certain parts in a ballet when you're watching people dance where you can really feel the emotions. So dance is an art form, right? And in general, all art is telling a story. So even ballet is basically telling a story through dance. So every now and then you feel all these emotions when you see the person move or interact with another body. And then also the other really great thing about watching a ballet is you look at their technique. So if you've ever seen any sort of ballerina, they make it look really easy, going up on point, so up on their toes, and they'll do all these turns and jumps, but yet it's very graceful, and they make it look like it's a piece of cake. And I would say that's like the essence of ballet, is you're working really hard, and there's a lot of technique and a lot of artistry behind it, but you have to make it look super easy. And so that's sort of what is really mesmerizing to watch.
Well, that was a very unique experience. I thought you would say, you were wide awake and intrigued when you were watching your first show, but yes, experiences are quite different. So tell me, there must have been a lot of people who have supported you or influenced you to take up ballet and to pursue the career that you are following right now. So can you tell us about those people who have influenced you?
I would say firstly probably my parents, because I have to be grateful that they were able to send me there, and then also not object to me taking dance as a major, because it's very risky to be taking like a dance, like any art form, going there and spending 4 years just learning how to dance. But my parents were quite supportive of it, and maybe I think also the other reason they were supportive is because I had a very clear goal, which was opening a dance studio. So I feel like maybe they didn't see it as me just going there and dancing, but me working towards something, and eventually being able to hopefully have a career based on that major. So I would say it was probably my parents first, and then also my mentor in college. Her name was 𝗂𝗏, my professor. She was the dance professor there, and she also was the professor that was in charge of my thesis, which was actually about importing ballet to Bhutan. I wrote a thesis about bringing ballet to Bhutan, and I looked at the theoretical implications of bringing a Western art form into a nation that still has so much to develop in terms of its own culture and bringing its culture outside. So she really helped me with that as well. And then I would also say probably my teachers in New York. They were always very supportive, because I started rather late. So I remember Joan Liu. She even took me for my first point fitting. She came with me to the store, and then we tried on my first point shoes together. It was really nice and very sweet of her to take the time out to do all of this for me.
It's great to hear that you've been supported throughout all the things that you've wanted to do, and it's important for us to have our own ideas and to assure our parents that we will be able to follow through with it. So you did that, and that's great. And if you don't mind me asking, how are you financially able to sustain your career?
I will say I am very lucky that I was born in a place where I can afford to go out, and I can afford to not necessarily have to worry too much. But ballet has been rather successful. So the income from my ballet is enough for me.
Well, that's reassuring to know that you are able to sustain yourself through your career, because as much as we want to follow our passions, it's also important for us to think about the financial aspect of our lives. And Leiden, there might be a lot of people who might be struggling with the thought, that what should they do? Should they follow their passion, or should they, do something that is like more traditional, profession oriented? So what would you say to those people who are conflicted?
I think each person is slightly different. So while I would like to give like an honest, while I would like to say like, oh, this is what you should do, it's, it depends on the person and their lives. But I would say you have to find there's a very fine line of balance between, diving fully into your passion and then finding like a desk or a more realistic job. For me, I think I managed to find it. Like, I started so late, and then also for me to be dancing professionally in the US, I would need like an 𝗚1 visa, which is an artist visa, and it's really hard to get. So realistically, while I like performing and I like being on stage, I didn't go for that one. Instead, I went for another passion, or more like something I felt like I didn't have, which was a platform for dance and to learn it. So I was like, okay, this is something that I felt like I didn't have growing up. So I was like, I shall provide it now for kids, so that they feel like, even if they don't follow dance or continue with dance later on, at least they did have that opportunity to explore dance. So I found that fine line between going fully, trying to audition for companies and touring the world and trying really hard, and then making it somewhat realistic by, starting a studio and helping children is what I did. So there's a fine balance.
So coming back to your ballet classes, what do you focus on? You said that you mostly have young children, so it must be a little difficult working with children, to communicate with them, to get their attention. So how is it like?
So one thing I do require is that children are potty trained. Usually they are, but just in case, I do ask parents like, is your child potty trained? Just because sometimes in class, sometimes the kids get excited, or something is a lot of fun and they don't want to raise their hands up to go to the bathroom. But I would say some of the difficulties that I do face with teaching children, I think, would be just instilling that discipline that is in ballet and bringing it here. So for example, we'll start off with dots, and then I'll have them stand up a certain way, in like what we call our ballet way, and then I'll have them only stand up when I call their name, so you understand how to listen. So that's a really big skill, like learning how to listen to someone. So it's that's one thing we really work on, listening. And then the other thing is like discipline. So for example, even with kids as young as 3 and 4, I will start slowly introducing this thing where I ask the children only once during class, and I'll be like, does anyone need to use the bathroom or drink water? And that's the only time they're allowed to go. So that's one thing we work on, is like sort of instilling this discipline and having children learn how to behave in a dance class, is what I would say.
I think when you're a toddler, if you can instill those,
we start pretty young, yes.
Yeah. So it's great that they're learning. And when it comes to adults, I think as we grow older, we get indulged in our work a lot, and we tend to sideline our hobbies, the arts, especially dancing, painting, be it anything. We tend to sideline those things and get more involved in our workspace. So can you tell me how important is it for us to be involved in the arts?
As a dancer, I would say that arts is very important. I think it's very important that children and even adults are able to have a form of self-expression. So even with the students, the younger girls, we start them by 3 and 4. Like I'll play music and I'll be like, all right, dancers, can you show me what happy feels like? And then first I give them like, it's sort of contained, right? A boundary, like show me only what happy is, show me only what sad is. And then eventually we move on to dancing how you feel to the music, or telling me a story through dance. We start them off like that. And so even with adults, I feel like being able to express emotions that you're feeling, maybe not necessarily through words, you can paint it, you can write it, dance it. There are so many different ways of expression. And it's also another thing we were talking about, like careers. You could go into a desk job, which is a 9-to-5 job, and then you can also always take something you're passionate about and start off as a small business. If you want to do an art studio, you can have classes after 5 for kids, and then once that grows, you can always leave your desk job. But I feel like just having that outlet it's very important.
So what are your future plans, Leiden? Right now you're based in Thimphu, right? So do you have plans to expand, or maybe increase your clientele to adults?
If people want classes for adults, I'm always open for it. But so far I feel like parents or people just haven't been very open to taking adult classes, not as much as children. And even for children, I do wish that more boys would join, because I feel like people think that ballet is only for girls, but actually ballet is also for boys, and it really helps with sports and like coordination and jump techniques, which is really good for basketball, even football, because you develop so many muscles in your feet, your metatarsals, your ankles. So it really helps with different sports. So I really hope to see more boys take classes. Future goals. And as for expanding, I don't think I could expand, just because there's only one of me right now, and to have someone reach a level where they can be teaching, it would take at least like 5 to 6 years, especially maybe with the little kids. So maybe if I have a student that keeps continuing, and they wanted to, I think that would be wonderful. But in terms of expansion, I haven't really thought about it much also. Just going with the flow, to be honest. But I think one of my biggest focuses is probably performance culture. So every year at the end of the year, we usually do a recital, because it helps, it's one for the children so that they can start working on stage presence, and then also show everything they have learned the whole year. And then secondly, it's also for parents to watch their children, perform and show. And then thirdly, also because I really like recitals, that's like my area where I get to be creative, because throughout the year I'm teaching technique, and it's very strict. Like, it's a step-by-step thing. You're slowly progressing from from working your feet to, there's a specific way for everything. Whereas the recital, it's like where I get to make the choreography, I get to look at like the big picture, and it's my creative outlet. So this year we're going to do a recital called the Bake Shop, and it'll be all these girls, they'll be baked goods, and then after the performance, and when we're in the lounge or in the foyer, we'll have those exact baked goods available for parents and children to eat. So that's really fun right now. Like, for example, I have like the little red velvet cupcakes, and then I have like the sugar plums, and I think we're looking at like the chef and like the baker. So that's really fun. But future-wise, I also do want to do, I do want to incorporate Bhutanese culture into it. So I'm looking at a Bhutanese folk tale to tell through ballet. I think that would be really fun to bring the two worlds together, because ballet is nothing but telling a story. So it'll be really nice to tell a Bhutanese folk tale, and then I do eventually want production to be a lot bigger. So for example, to do a ballet, specifically a Bhutanese ballet, I would need music, right? So it would be nice to incorporate like Bhutanese music, Bhutanese instruments, musicians from Bhutan. And then it would also, usually you do have like sound production, and you have lighting, you have costumes. So I would slowly like to start building up like production value in general, like having all these different elements incorporated in the recital, and hopefully maybe in the next few years be able to tell a Bhutanese folktale.
I think it will be the perfect fusion of the graceful art that is ballet and the rich stories that we have in the Bhutanese culture. So I guess I'll be looking forward to it, and surely your students will be looking forward to it as well. But you seem to be the most excited, so it's really interesting. I'm sure it will be a great success.
Thank you.
And to all our viewers who want to know more about ballet, you can contact Leiden on her Instagram page, 𝗬𝗏 Studios. Thank you for watching.